Welcome back, brewers. So it's time for another hop tester video, and today I'm going to be making a beer using Pacific Sunrise. So let's just talk about these hops a little bit before we get into the brewing. So these are a New Zealand variety. They're clocking in at 12.5% AA value, and they have some really exciting descriptors as far as the flavour and aromatics, which I'll go into in a second. To me, these were, I thought, a very new variety, but looking on the website, it actually says that they were released in 2000. So I'm not sure whether they just haven't been picked up by brewers much since then or what, but I hadn't really heard of them until very recently when I saw them on the Malt Miller website and thought I'd grab a bag of them. So let's just go through some of the descriptors that are on the website for these hops. So hoprevolution.co.New Zealand talks about lemon and orange citrus driving the hop forward flavour of this variety, with tropical hits of melon and mango, stone fruit and jammy sweetness in there as well, and pleasant floral notes. So everything in there really sort of screams modern IPA, pale ales, hazy pales, that sort of thing. And hopefully that's some of the stuff that we'll get out of these hops when we brew them. So let's just open up the packet and see what we get from the raw hops and see if we can pick up on any of those descriptors that are mentioned on the website there. So out of the bag, they are pretty pungent. They're not the most overwhelmingly aromatic hops out the bag ever, but they're pretty up there as far as what I'm getting on the nose at the moment. And I would say there's definitely a citrus-led aroma there. I'm getting quite a bit of lime, I think, so that's not surprising considering it's a New Zealand variety. That's a very common characteristic for New Zealand hops. And I think mango, yeah, lime, mango, kind of little bit of the floral note there, but kind of sweet tropical mango lime aromas. Smell really promising, to be fair. So yeah, let's get this brew going, do a little bit of brew footage, and then we'll come back for some tasting. And obviously I'll send this off to the Hop Edition boys as well, and hopefully get a bit of feedback from them on what they think of Pacific Sunrise. So let's get into it. Right, sorry guys, but I've had to cut this video a little bit shorter. Normally with these sorts of beers, I would be sending them out to the Hop Edition crew and getting them to do a live tasting of them and doing score sheets on the flavour and aroma and all of that fun stuff. But to be honest, this beer is not worth the hassle of sending and the cost of sending it out to other people to do that review, because basically it's just not really doing anything for me as far as the flavour and aroma from these particular hops. Now, I would be the first to suggest that that might be something to do with me cocking up the brewing and making a mistake, or any number of possible issues that may have been introduced from the process side and by my potential mistakes brewing it. But this is a pretty tried and trusted recipe that I'm using. I have made slight tweaks to it over the various versions of the hop tester beer that I've done, but essentially it's the same, you know, kind of grain bill and hop schedule in essence. There aren't any obvious flaws with the beer. So this is it in the glass. My first thoughts, if it was majorly lacking in kind of hop aroma and flavour, would be oxidation as the prime culprit. Now, first of all, there's not really anything in the process that was different that I would think might be a reason for it to be oxidized. And looking at the beer itself, there isn't a telltale kind of grey browny kind of discoloration on the beer or anything like that. Aside from the lack of hop flavour and aroma on it, it doesn't have any like cardboard or sherry notes to it, or a kind of jammy bitterness, which I've had in the past with oxidized beers. I've drunk enough oxidized beers to kind of know that that's not really what's going on here, or at least I believe that's not what's going on here. So yeah, it's in short, it's just really disappointing as far as what I've got from these hops. And again, I know that this is a one-off brew, one particular bag of these hops from one particular batch, and it might not be representative of what they are like normally. But on the flip side of that, what I was saying earlier in the video about not having heard of these, and them being described by the growers themselves as a under the radar hop, maybe there's a reason they're under the radar, and I haven't really seen them in many commercial beers because they're just not really doing much for many people. I don't know, but anyway, let's talk about the beer and what, if anything, I do get from the hops. So the aroma on this beer, when I first tried it from the keg, I kind of thought maybe it will just take a little while to kick in, but it's just never really had that much aroma-wise, to be honest. I just get more of the slightly bready, biscuity kind of malt on the aroma, and there's just a very... it doesn't even smell like a kind of generic hoppiness. It just doesn't... the hops don't really present on the aroma very much at all. At best, maybe a light kind of fruity note. Not unpleasant in any way, but just really, not anything to shout about. So, flavour-wise, there's a bit more there on the flavour. But again, it doesn't taste, hoppy in any way. By the time it's gone down, the main flavour you're left with is the malt. If I was going to say there's any kind of flavours that stand out, they don't stand out, but if there's any kind of flavours that I am picking up more than others from the hops, it's a kind of very, very, very light sort of citrusy note, maybe a little bit of a kind of tangerine, very subtle, orange peel kind of note in there. There's almost like a slightly herbal or spicy, tiny bit of flavour in there. So yeah, for me, it just doesn't really hit those kind of flavour notes that it's sold under. Some very subtle citrus and kind of soft fruits in there, maybe. That's maybe a little bit of a subtle peachy apricot note underneath, but it's also subtle that I think really maybe this hop sings when it's combined with other hop varieties. But for me, in this particular instance, it's just basically probably one of the most underwhelming hops that I've used so far in this kind of hop tester series. So I can't really recommend it, but what I would be interested in is hearing from anyone else who's used this, and whether you had better results with it, or whether you've tried kind of commercial beers where it's featured as the primary or single hop where it's been good. Because I wouldn't be buying any more of it off of the basis of this beer, but I would like to know if maybe that's just maybe like a one-off experience where, like I said, it's not been a particularly good batch of it for whatever reason, or maybe it is something that I've done wrong with it that I'm just not aware of at this point. So anyone else who's used it, stick a comment below if you think that this hop is better than it's presented in this beer for me. Let me know, or let me know how you've used it, where it's been successful, if it has, or if you've had the same sort of experience as me. Obviously, let me know as well. I have seen some other people using it online that haven't necessarily had the best experience with it. A channel with a very similar name to mine over in the US has done a hop test on this. I'll put a link to that up above. And I think they got more flavour out of it, but were also pretty underwhelmed as far as the flavour and stuff goes. So yeah, maybe not just me, but let me know in the comments what you think. Anyway, so yeah, wouldn't rush out and buy any of that, but that was Pacific Sunrise. Cheers, everyone.
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, you know, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.